Let's get sweaty.
Hi guys, welcome to our review of Air Twister, the brand new game from YSNET and Yu Suzuki, of course, the creator of Space Harrier, amongst other classic games that obviously have got a good direct tie to this particular game. And we're going to give our quick thoughts and feedback. We've just come out of a stream playing the game. We've been playing it on and off all day, actually. And we've got a fair good opinion, I'd say, on the game as a whole right now. And I'm going to jump straight into some of these topics, headlines that I've got here. Matt, gameplay. Take it away, Matt. What do you think? I mean, obviously it's based, or it's taken inspiration from Space Harrier and Res, Panzer Dragoon, etc. How does it hold up to those sort of titles, would you say?
I mean, the biggest compliment I can give it is it's a spiritual successor. From the first level where it says "Get ready" at you, which anybody who's played Space Harrier will know that line. It's iconic. Yeah. It's just part of Space Harrier. I think it holds up really, really well to those titles. I mean, it feels tight. The gameplay is Space Harrier with some Panzer Dragoon sort of in there with the lock-on system that we'll talk about a bit more in a bit. But I think overall, I'm really impressed that they've modernised what is the old arcade format of the 80s and 90s and that 2D sort of sprite-based thing, and then have gone 3D, Unreal Engine, essentially it's a very simple gameplay loop, but modernised it. It's wacky. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's very wacky. But overall, I was really, really impressed with it, and I think it holds up really, really well for an arcade shooter. I love it. I'm really impressed.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the way I'd describe it is it's like an unofficial official sequel to Space Harrier. It's what I would want if they were to, bring out a brand new Space Harrier. This is the game that I would want. And, it's unofficial in the sense it's not Space Harrier, but it's official in the sense that Yu Suzuki, the creator of Space Harrier, has created this.
Yeah.
And, obviously his team at YSNET. So, yeah, gameplay-wise, very good, very solid, in my opinion. It plays exactly how you want it to. You've got a combination of touchscreen or controller, depending on your preferred method or what device you're using there. So, touchscreen, I thought, because I've been playing it majority on touchscreen on my iPhone, it's very intuitive. It's very simple. You just drag your finger across the screen, and Princess Arch is the character's name. She goes exactly where you touch. And if you happen to swipe over enemies, it locks on. It's constantly shooting. It's really good, actually, touchscreen. And Matt, you've been playing primarily with your controller. How would you say the controller aspect holds up?
It felt really tight, actually, very responsive. The shooting mechanics quite straightforward. Again, instead of a touchscreen, as you move across the character, the enemies, it will lock on for you, and you shoot your lock on, which is great. I thought it just felt natural. It just felt tight. It felt refined. Very simple controls, but that's all you need. You don't need anything else for this sort of game, and it just felt really polished. The controls. I'm really, really happy with the control scheme. Actually, I think people try and overcomplicate controls. You don't need to. You don't need to, and this is a perfect example of just getting it right, and away you go.
Yeah, agreed. So that moves us into story next, Matt. So obviously these type of games, arcade experience, you don't really expect too much story, but surprisingly there is quite a, I won't say lengthy introduction, but there's a solid 2-minute introduction to the game. Could you talk us a little bit about what you've experienced of the story so far, would you say?
Yeah, I mean, I got about halfway through the game on stream and any sort of practice runs as well. And you open up with a cutscene of Princess Archie's planet being essentially attacked by these, what I think are alien type things. It gives you the cutscene of people being shot down and all the rest of it. And through the game, you move through, as you get bosses, you get cutscenes, and then halfway through the game, you get a cutscene, basically annoyed all the enemies by taking them all out. So then the difficulty ramps up, and it gives you the story that the enemies have become more ruthless, more fearless, and are just going to batter you. And then obviously, I would imagine that moves into the end of the game. There'll be a bit more story there as well. But part of what surprised me actually with this game, because with the best will in the world, it is an arcade shooter. You don't expect a huge amount of story. But what they've got behind it in terms of some of the lore, they've got like a logbook of the enemies you run into, the worlds that you go to. You can see all of that in the main menu, which I didn't expect this at all. So for me, that's really, really cool. You can see if the stuff listed. You can look at it at your leisure. It adds to the lore, it adds to the story. You get a map of the world where you can buy like upgrades and things as well, and it all links. It's all very well linked. I'm very, very impressed that they've bothered to sort of have a bit of a thought process behind this and go, well, let's make a story out of it. Let's make something loose around there. Let's bring some lore in, and I think it works. I think it works very, very well. Again, it's a bit wacky in terms of flying swans, elephants, and fish, but
Yeah.
you take it for what it is, don't you?
Well, that's it, and that is how arcade games used to be back in the day. You know, very wacky, a lot of random elements like that. I mean, look at Space Area, for example, woolly mammoths and flying aliens and stuff.
Exactly.
So it does take a lot of inspiration from that. And like you say, the it's kind of like an upgrade system they've got going on. I wasn't expecting it to be as fleshed out as it ends up being. So I think the team have done a really good job of tying it all together and creating an experience that adds a lot of replayability that we'll get into in a moment. So next up, Matt, graphics. So obviously we found out through playing on different devices, it kind of scales to the device that you're using, which you would expect, to be fair. So you were using an Apple TV device, which was like the most basic version that you can get that can play Air Twister. Yeah. So graphically, I mean, that's what we saw as we were streaming it as well. But what would you say so far, your experiences with the graphics?
I mean, I'm only going on the experience I've had with Apple TV. I will try it on an iPhone, actually, just for a comparison later on. But actually, on Apple TV, I found it was locked 30 frames per second generally. You had some drops here or there, but it was fine. It didn't ruin it for me or anything like that. A little bit of pop in here or there, but I suspect that's the device, and it obviously having to scale to that, not a problem. Yep. Graphically, I thought, do you know what? It looks good. It doesn't have to look outstanding, this sort of game, because I think the game and the gameplay are much more important, and they've nailed that. So graphically, it looks good. It looks fine. I have no particular issues with it. I think seeing it on a MacBook or a more powerful device, I think then you would see it look a lot better than it would do on an Apple TV. But as you said, James, it scales to the device you're on. So that's quite complicated in itself, that they've had to get it to scale to, how many Apple devices are out there? I mean, you've got Apple TV, you've got MacBooks, you've got iMacs, you've got Mac computers, you've got however many variations of iPhone out there as well.
Yep.
So to get it to scale to an iPad, of course, which I've just missed out. So I think for what they've had to do, technically, I think they've done a really, really good job. And as I said, on Apple TV, locked 30, 1080p from what I could see. It certainly said it on stream, it was 1080p. Whether that's been gone through the process in the stream as well, I don't know. But I was happy with it graphically. I think it looks good for what it is. It's very colourful. It's very out there in the way it presents itself. But I don't mind that. Again, it's a callback to the 80s arcade titles, which were very colourful, very out there, very weird and different, and that's what I think appeals to me with this game. It's the whole presentation of it just being different, being a pick up and play, being a callback to when you throw pound coins in your arcade machines and you keep going because you want to beat your score, you want to beat your level. I think graphically, I mean, I've gone on a tangent, as you can probably tell, but graphically it's fine.
Yeah.
But the graphics aren't the secret to it. I think that they're solid, and that's all they need to be.
Yeah, it's definitely in the gameplay is where it shines, but the graphics still look great. And from my perspective, I've been using, I think it's an iPhone 13X Pro, whatever the I think there's one, perhaps a newer device from this one, but you can tell, it's one of the top of the range iPhones anyway, and it plays great. I don't remember actually what I saw in the settings on that, but I can only speak for the MacBook Pro that I've got in front of me, which is where this camera is. This was giving me the option of 120 FPS, which surprised me actually. So you saying like your Apple TV was like restricted to 30 FPS, so that kind of shows you, depending on how powerful your device is, what you can actually get out of this particular title. So yeah, give it a go, guys. Whatever Apple device you can, and I'm pretty sure graphically it scales to the device. So Matt, next, music. Obviously, we know the composer of the soundtrack is a guy called Valencia. He's been around for quite a while. I think he's a German composer, right? But right. Yu Suzuki's very fond of his music. I get the feeling he's been a fan for however many years that this guy's been making music for. So, as a soundtrack, when you're playing the game, obviously these songs are playing. How do you think this music works with this type of game and the gameplay?
Do you know? I mean, it's Queen inspired, isn't it? That's the only way.
Yeah.
Let's not beat around the bush here. It is very much Queen, and I have no problem with that. I like Queen, good band, still are, and all the rest of it. The soundtrack shouldn't work. It really shouldn't. when you think
it does though, doesn't it?
Classic, it does. When you think of classic Queen and sort of that operatic feel to it, some sort of guitar-based stuff as well, you think that's a real mishmash. But then I suppose the game's a real mishmash in terms of the way it presents itself and the stages and everything else. And it comes together and it just works. That soundtrack is really good. I mean, you can buy it. It's out. I think it'll be up for pre-order in the not too distant future. I think it's August 15th it comes out. And I'm going to pick it up because it's bloody good.
Yeah, same.
I'm surprised how... Because when we first heard this trailer, we were all like, bloody hell, yeah, this is random as hell for this sort of game. But do you know what?
Are we saying it sounds like Killer Queen by Queen?
Yeah. But having played it for probably now about 3-4 hours at this point, it just works. I don't know why. I can't put my finger on it. I can't give any sort of rhyme or reason other than just play it and you'll get it.
Makes you wonder if Suzuki would have had this kind of music back in the day. If obviously you're using sound chips back in the day, weren't you? You know, Space Harrier is a very distinct 16-bit sort of sound effects and all that sort of stuff. So if you could have had CD quality music, maybe, I don't know, maybe Space Harrier would have had this Valentia guy do the soundtrack to that. I don't know.
You could have done. I mean, you've hit the nail on the head there. And again, it's about modernising this sort of game. 80s Space Harrier, like you say, sound chips. You can hear the songs in your head, can't you, from Space Harrier? But I
can hear this new music in my head at the moment as we speak.
But I think because now you obviously have access to CD quality music that you can put into your games relatively easily. Obviously, file sizes are much bigger. You've got compression wizardry and all the rest of it. I think that just opens the avenue for the music. And here it just sings. It works. There's no other way to put it. I can't say any more to it because I'd just be making stuff. It works. It's the only way I can say. It just goes together.
Yeah. Agreed. So that's 2 sales for the soundtrack.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, already off to a good start there. So next up, Matt, game modes, longevity. So this is something I touched upon earlier. I was surprised how fleshed out the game is. There's not just an arcade experience that I was expecting. I was expecting the gameplay would be you press start, you go. You can do that. It kind of is. That is the game anyway. But there's all these other elements to it. Like there's like a upgrade system, skill tree map. You unlock costumes, weapons, various things there. They may even be... No, we were speculating whether there's like a bit of a Shenmue Easter egg, perhaps.
Hopefully.
Maybe at the end, Chobi-chan M-Boss or something. But yeah, Matt, what did you think? Or how? What's the incentive to keep coming back, would you say?
I think that the incentive to coming back is you get the upgrade system. So what they do is they present a world map, and you essentially, when you're killing enemies, you collect stars for killing groups of enemies, and they rack up, and then you can buy health, you can buy new weapons, you can buy clothes, you can buy all that sort of stuff. So that's an incentive in that regard to keep upgrading. So it allows you, so it's your path to finishing the game is easier. I think that's what it feeds into at the end of the day, and then there's obviously achievements attached to that as well. I think secondly to that, there's daily challenges, which you'll have where you can cash in for stars. You have weekly challenges as well. You can cash in for stars, which again adds to that longevity and that replayability. Completionists might want to see every world, every enemy, and fill the book in as well as you go and get every costume. Looking at the menu on the other side of things, obviously you've got the arcade mode, which can be scaled on difficulty as well. So you've got easy, normal, hard, and hardest. I imagine just by default it's on normal, if I had to hazard a guess, but I could be wrong. Yep. Could be completely
Sounds
wrong
right.
in that regard. There's also other modes knocking around as well. There's a fluffy mode or something that popped up. I don't know what the hell that is.
We'll have to experience that. Yeah.
There's a boss rush on the way. And then there's other content they've sort of sat there that's greyed out at the moment, which I imagine will get added as it gets patched, as things get moved, as the game sort of moves into its life cycle and whatever they're going to do with it. So I think the room is there for a lot of longevity if people want to keep going at it. I mean, I found this playing it, that all that other stuff's great, but me just sitting there going, I want to beat my score, I want to get to the next level.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
It's just addictive anyway, isn't it?
That's exactly
the gameplay.
it. The gameplay loop is addictive. And that's what these arcade titles were about. And you kept throwing your money in and away you went. So for me, that other stuff's great and I didn't expect it. But the fact it is addictive, the fact I was sat here on stream going, oh, I want another go, I want another go, I want another go, says testament actually to what I think the longevity of it is, which is just going back and beating your score. And like you used to back in the day, you'd play Crazy Taxi, for example, and go, I want to beat
and
that
still
score.
do.
And you keep going, wouldn't you? You keep going. And it's
that's
like
the thing.
Here.
You've got all these massive games that are like 70 hours or whatever, but I probably put 70 hours in over the years into Crazy Taxi and those kind of arcade games, Space Harrier. It's games that are fun to play that make you want to keep coming back for more anyway, and they're addictive enough anyway. And I think this, as it stands right now from my experiences today, I think this could hold up in the future. It's like something that I might think, oh, I'll play a little bit of Air Twister now.
Yeah, exactly.
Perhaps.
And
it depends if we can get out of the Apple ecostructure at some point so more people can play it and experience this, and perhaps it hits the consoles or something. I don't know. We don't know what's the exclusivity is on that yet, but that would be the ideal scenario, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It needs to come over to console. Like you said, I don't know what the deal is around exclusivity. I mean, I don't know if anyone had mentioned it publicly yet. I mean, they're probably tied in for, you'd have thought, a year. But I don't know the deal, obviously. It may never come to console. There is obviously that chance. But I mean, I'd happily throw 10, 15 quid at this as a pick up and play arcade title with a bit of, bit more around it, a bit of longevity to it as well. I'd throw money at it. I think a lot of people throw money at it. And what's really powerful is it's reviewing well anyway, publicly. And secondly, people are already asking, when's it coming to console? When's it coming to console? So people want it outside.
It's in demand.
Yeah, it's in demand. So people want it out of the Apple ecosystem. So that's a good start in my book. They just then hopefully have the tools in place to allow that to happen.
Yeah. So obviously, fans of Space Harrier, Res, Panzer Dragoon, you're going to be right at home with Air Twister. This is a game that is made for you. So yeah, that's why it would be in demand, I would say. Hopefully people pick up and play. So Matt, we've been talking mostly about the good things. So are there any negatives?
I had two, and this might be device specific. So let me give that a caveat straight away. This isn't across other devices. This is just based on my experience having played this game a fair bit now. Number one is on Apple TV. It doesn't save my progress. So the skill tree system, buying your stuff, every time I start it up, I have to go from the beginning again. Which I suppose is good.
Which is strange, because it is saying it does save occasionally, doesn't it?
So I'm getting the achievements, which is really weird. I don't know why. But I suppose it's good in one sense. It means I'm having to practice the levels and get better at it with basically your base health, which is always a good thing, I guess. But that's annoying. I'm not going to lie. It's annoying. It's a minor issue because I like the gameplay loop, so it's not going to bother me too much, but I hope they fix it. I mean, I will investigate this, not just my device playing up, but other games have saved on there, so I'd be surprised.
Okay.
And then the second issue, which I understand is a widely reported issue across, well, certainly on Apple TV it happened for me, and I think it's happening on other devices, is it crashes when you use an Xbox controller. I understand it doesn't with the PlayStation controller at the moment, so there's a bug there for them to fix, which is a bit annoying. But again, I can sit and dwell on it, but there's no point. It's not going to ruin my experience of the game. I hope they fix it so then I don't have that issue. But I didn't sit here and throw my toys out the pram, and I might have swore a little bit on stream about it. But
that was just crashing. The crashing element.
Just what it was. But they're the only two things that I have personally experienced. In terms of the game itself, it plays really well. I haven't noticed any weird bugs in gameplay or anything like that. I haven't noticed anything that stands out as, oh, that's a bit off and a bit random or whatever. So, no, I'm generally happy with it. But those are the two things that I have picked up and seen, and I hope they fix them. And I know they are patching it because it went from version 1 this morning to version 1.02 tonight. So they are still working on it, which is good. So hopefully they can patch this stuff out.
Yeah, and by the time you watch this, perhaps those 2 negatives have already been fixed and there's no negatives. It's surprisingly perfect, to be honest. I mean, it's hard to judge something from a trailer, etc., whatever. But when you're actually playing the game, it's super smooth. It plays really well. I think if you give it a chance, give it a go. If you've got an Apple device and you can download it and play it, I think you will be pleasantly surprised, actually. And it's a game that I'd sit here and highly recommend to anyone.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, Matt, score? You got a score for me?
Out of 10, I'd give it a nice solid 8, I think. Great game, great gameplay loop, nice and solid, generally polished. The couple of issues that I've had, a little bit of shine off of it, but it wouldn't have affected my score too much anyway. Nice solid 8 out of 10, I think. YSNET, Suzuki and the team have done a stellar job with this. And I'm interested to see what comes out of them next.
Very good, man. I mean, if I give it a score, I'd probably give it I was going to say like a high 8, but I'll give it a 9 in that sense, because I've not had those 2 negatives that you have. My saves are syncing perfect. I haven't had any crashes. So as it stands right now, a day into it, I'll give it a 9. But I can't judge the whole experience because probably should have given a disclaimer at the start there. We haven't completed the game yet.
No.
So as it stands right now is a 9. But yeah, I'm really pleased. Hopefully it's a successful item game. It can lead on to other things for YSNET in the future. And Yu Suzuki, hopefully he's pleased with the response. Like I say, people have been reviewing it really well. I think there's been a few articles out there that perhaps you can go look up on the internet or whatever and read what other people have thinking about it. But so far, so good.
Yeah, definitely. So far, so good. I'll be interested to see the new modes they're going to put in and see how this game sort of moves on in terms of a service, and then just bring it to console. Please bring it to console. We were saying on stream it's a limited run games job here. I have already harassed Josh. He didn't say no, but we'll just see where we are. But I'd love it on console. Bring it to console or PC as soon as you can, because I guarantee you I will buy it.
Hopefully they can work a deal or something there. Yeah. Right, guys, so that is our review of Air Twister. Go pick it up right now over on Apple Arcade and let us know in the comments below what you think about the game.